On the Morning Groove this morning, two legendary Atlantans. I call them legendary. You know their fathers, but you actually know these two beautiful souls, too. The daughters of hot-buttered soul himself, Mr. Isaac Hayes. It is Heather Hayes in the building. And the daughter of the Godfather. I said the Godfather of soul himself. The daughter of the legendary James Brown. Dr. Yama Brown, the Soul Sisters are on the Morning Groove this morning.
Good morning.
Welcome, ladies. So a lot of people don't know that y'all been hanging out for a long time. It's funny because both of your dads are not just legendary, they are icons.
Icons, yes, honey.
So what is Soul Sisters? Tell everybody that first and foremost, and who's involved.
Okay. Heather.
Well, Soul Sisters is a radio show. It's a cross between talk radio, and we play music, and it is on Dash Radio, and it is on the Pure Soul channel powered by Isaac Hayes. And so that particular station is dedicated and geared towards soul music, so real music. And so my brother, Isaac Hayes III, he wanted to kind of create a show that, and he thought it would be really cool because a lot of us, which they call us legacies, that we know each other.
Right.
And so we kind of came together and we were like, we want to talk about current events. We want to talk about real issues in the community. And what's funny is when you look at the music back then, a lot of the soul music, songs were written based upon what was going on in the world, in the environment at that time. And so generally, depending on what topic we're talking about, we can always find songs that relate to the topic. And so it always connects. So we, we do pop culture.
Yeah.
We do like main topics, which it could be politics. It could be just a lot of, and she does this health check. And then, of course, I do her like a reality roundup. We do a little segment called Don't Be a Hater. So we have, we have guests.
It started off as what's bothering you. So, like, just kind of little things that may be going on just irk you a little bit. And you just want to get it out. But it really ends up being, don't be a hater, like, all the time.
Because there's a lot of them out there. And you have to address those people.
Yeah, I guess.
So, Dr. Yama, they say you have a health segment, and I call you doctor. Some people know your background. A lot of people don't, but I mean, you graduated from college with a PhD,
by the time
in your
she
early
was
20s. so tell us a little bit about your background and how you became the doctor.
Okay. Well, I actually was born in Augusta, Georgia.
That's right. That's right.
But I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland. So I went to high school there. I went to undergrad in University of Maryland, College Park. And then when I decided to go to pharmacy school, so I went to pharmacy school and got my doctorate in pharmacy at Mercer. In Atlanta. I came down here because I wanted to be closer to my dad. And so on the weekends, I used to go hang out with him when he was home. Wow. Because when he was working, 9 times out of 10, this one was with him. Because we met literally like I was still in pharmacy school when we met. So anyway, that's kind of my background when it comes to my doctorate. And I was 24 when I graduated with my doctorate.
You went hard
into
education.
I finished in 7 years.
Man.
That's crazy. That is insane.
Yeah. Man, how many credits were you taking, like credit hours a semester?
And you know what? I kind of actually messed up a semester.
Did you? Wow.
I'm still trying to figure out how she graduated because you are on the road with us. How you graduated?
But that's what I was just going to say. Atlanta. Back in the 90s, boo-boo.
That thing was off the chain.
I came here in 93. Bill Campbell was still mayor.
Freaknik was still
going on.
How did you graduate?
I have no idea. And that's why I said that first year was kind of a blur. But I made it through. And
now, what do you think about them trying to bring Freaknik back? But I think they're trying to put a twist on it. Family World or something?
Freak World. I think we just need to let Freaknik die.
That's what I thought.
Just let it go.
Yeah.
And
there
if we
will
wanna
never
do
be another freak
And I mean,
day.
if you want to do a family event, just do a family event, but don't put freak in it.
Right.
Like, it was nothing family about
Freak
freak
Day.
night.
Nothing.
That was some mess, some stuff happened, and we
Yes.
just need to leave that alone.
You might leave with a family, but and that family about Freak
Oh
Nick.
my gosh. So that's a little bit about my story and what brought me to Atlanta. Then, of course, I have 2 lovely kids, both in college right now. And then I had a James Brown Family Foundation, which I'm vice president of. And I do that along with my sister, Deanna, which is based out of Augusta. And we have the James Brown Academy of Music Pupils, the James Brown Historical Tour.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And I can't take credit for that because that literally is my sister, Deanna, that is like, put all that in motion. Of course, I'm on the board, and of course, we behind the scenes do stuff, but she's in the trenches down there, like I say, in the trenches.
Getting
in
it done,
Augusta,
yeah.
Because God bless her.
She's like, that's not my lane. I got your back.
It's
I
not
help
my
you
lane.
out, but
Health is where I am, and it's doing my thing with my soul sister over here.
so how? Yeah, go ahead, dude.
I want to know this. You said that the topics that you talk about on the radio show come from song. Does the song come first, or does the topic come first?
The topic
Topic
usually
usually comes first.
And do they all sit around and then have a listening session and just say, "I think this song fits"? Do y'all get to collaborate on what song?
Sometimes we might text a song, but a lot
Yeah.
of times our producer will find the songs. But generally, it's always the topic, and it's always like inspired by something we see on the news or something I see on Facebook, whether it be relationships, whether it be mental health, sex trafficking, the big. The drug problem that we have with opioids in the country, like it can be anything like that. And so we've had everything from, we had Bill Campbell on the show and we've had swingers on the show. So we do,
Wow.
we cover, the swinger show was quite interesting.
Yeah.
We were like,
bet.
So it was like, yeah.
What episode is that?
Y'all
so
so
we
crazy.
literally have, like I said, we have politicians on the show. We have pastors. We have Pastor Jamal Bryan on, and of course, we've had singers, athletes, and our swingers. So
That's a nice,
Equal
a nice,
opportunity.
yes, a
Opportunity.
nice
Yeah,
variety.
everybody can come through.
so,
yeah,
of
and-
course, we
had
had art on our show.
Yeah, I've been on the show too, man, and it's a good time. That's why I was messing with Yama about that wine.
But you know what I will say, back to your point about collaborating, early on we did do something when Boys in the Hood, we were talking about the soundtrack and how some of the music was sampled and inspired by some of our parents. And
Right.
so we do get a chance to even talk about music today and how it relates back to our parents. I mean, we get a chance to talk about our parents all the time,
But
but
between
it's great.
the both of y'all, there would be no hip hop industry without your dads.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hip hop would be, it would not be what it is right now.
You would have those
is
number
what
one
I'm saying.
tracks, yeah.
Which brings me to this point. We know Dr. Yama went through her thing, and she went to school and messed up that one semester, and she still came out on top. So, I mean, and people know the name Heather Hayes. You know, I know you from a performance perspective. So tell everybody how you got to this point.
So I went to a performing arts school, of course, here. So I always kind of wanted to sing. And I remember, it's so funny how, everybody's parents want to provide a better life for them.
Right.
And so clearly I am a suburban kid that grew up in Buckhead. My dad basically didn't see a bathtub till he was 9. So he was really, really poor. But as a singer, I saw Annie. And for some reason, I thought I was
did it.
I thought I was going to be the first Black Annie. Like,
Wow.
I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be the first Black Annie. So I went to performing arts school, started to perform there, and then, my parents were like, you need to do college prep courses, and if you want to do, so I had to do extra work because I think my dad was just like, this industry is too hard, so you need to have some, college prep courses. And so I went to college, and I feel like I was doing it because I knew that's what my parents wanted to do, but I hated it. I hated it. It wasn't even like I liked things like certain courses like psychology and sociology, but just the environment. I mean, I literally went to FAME. I went to a school that was like FAME. So when I go to college, I went to Georgia State. I just wasn't into it.
Right.
And I had an opportunity to go to Howard. And I knew my dad was pushing me to go to Howard. I had a scholarship. I auditioned with Madawilda Dobbs, up there, and I just did not want to do it. So I was like, I'll just go to Georgia State. And sometimes I kick myself because I missed that experience. But I only completed 2 years of Georgia State, and then her daddy came knocking. I was like, You mean I get paid to travel the world and sing and dance? Oh, I'm out.
Yeah, but that experience, you traded one experience for the other.
Yeah, and so I think for my dad, it was how hard are they going to work at it? Like, so a lot of people are like, well, why doesn't he buy you this? Why doesn't he do this? And he's like, no, I need to watch and see if y'all want it, and then I will chip in. I will come in along the way. But he's like, no handouts here.
Yeah.
And so what happened was I toured with him for years, and it was grueling. Like, I don't know how he did it. James Brown did it. I was exhausted. So I left that, and then I just started, like, dancing in videos, singing background. And I loved the live experience with her dad. And so somebody told me about cover bands or corporate bands and just how much money they actually made. Like, I did not know. And I was like, really? And so I was like, well, I want to have a band. And I remember I was scared because there weren't really a lot of female band owners in that business. There's just not. And so I approached somebody who managed bands, and I was like, well, I'm going to see if I want to have a band. And then I waited. And so I told my dad, and he was like, well, bring the band down here. And I was like, So we went down to Memphis. I performed for him. And I know my dad, if we sucked, he'd be like, go, we need to fix that. So he was like, you're good. You're good. And so I didn't immediately jump on it. And I remember I was just trying to figure out what I was doing. I felt like I was flailing. And I had a car, and it had broken down a couple times. He would send me money. And so it broke down. And so I called him. And I was like, Dad, I need some money. My car broke down. He was like, so listen, this is what's going to happen. So I'm going to send you one last check. And I was like, what you mean? Because he was like, well, what about the band? And I was like, well, and he was like, okay, so nobody can do it for you. I'm not going to do it for you. If you want to sing, if you want to have a band, then you need to do that. He said, so this is your last check. The bank is closed. I was like,
whoa.
Like, wait a second, Pops. Right.
Hold up. Yeah, like, literally, that was January. I met with the manager the end of January. I had my first gig in March. Like, I was like, I need a job. Like, because the thing is that when in the back of your mind, I can call and be like, Daddy, can you send me? Daddy, can you? He was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And I could, the pride in him, I could see once I got it off the ground and we came back and he saw us perform, I could see the pride. And that's when he was like, you need some microphones?
Right.
I can.
Oh, man.
That's when
Here it comes. Yeah.
Other than that, he was like, you got to figure it out. And so that's how it started. And so my band is called the Heather Hayes Experience. We perform all over the country, and it is lucrative, I will say. But I have an 11-piece band because I really wanted to bring the experience that I had with James Brown to my band. And so when I entered in that, I was in other people's bands. They weren't really doing a show. And I was like, well, look, if I got to do cover tunes, I'm going to do a show.
Right.
So it's choreography, it's costume changes. Like, I had a rapper in the show. People were like, what is going on? But I really wanted that experience. And then just from there, I transitioned to doing a show called Hot Buttered Soul, which is a dedication to my dad. So people don't realize how much music he actually wrote before he became Black Moses.
I'm a soul man.
Yeah, he wrote all of that. So in Hot Buttered Soul, we do that. And then, of course, I do Soul Sisters. And I also do a little thing called Daughters of Legacy because, like I said, we know, all of us know each other. Yama's actually the emceeing that show sometimes, but it's myself, Keisha Jackson, Aisha Wright, and Robin Charles, which is Ray Charles's daughter, Betty Wright's daughter, Willie Jackson's daughter, and myself.
Nice.
And so we do our own original songs, and we cover our parents' songs. We tell little stories because people don't know a lot of the stuff that we know.
Right.
And so, it's brought me to this point, but I've known my soul sister forever, and that's just, we really enjoy covering the community and things that are going on in the world. And this is a new venture for us. We've been doing it for about 3 years, but it's really fun. We get to talk to really, really interesting people, and it's still connected to music and connected to our legacy. So that's how we got here.
All right. So I don't want to, I'm just going to drop this in real quick. I know it's 10:08. How are we looking on time?
We looking like we need to wrap up.
Okay. Okay. Dr. Brown got some stuff to do.
Yeah. Dr.
Tony,
Brown got to go still be doctor.
Right. Right.
No, I think we can I think we got enough to play with. Yeah, we can just kind of wrap it up.
All right. Well, no, I ain't done yet. So, and Dr. Brown, I'm gonna hit you first with this. Give me like the most important lesson that you got from being around your dad and something that applies to your adult life.
Humility. Humility. I mean, I remember on several occasions, I can tell you one, and it's going to sound crazy when I say it because we were leaving after he performed somewhere. I don't even remember where
He
it was.
performed everywhere.
Right. And we were getting on a private plane. So I think we were leaving New York because I think it was Teterboro. And we were getting on a private plane and people were waiting. And I didn't have really anything to say negative about that, but that just showed me his dedication because it was a good group of people. And even though he had performed and it was like, we're going back to South Carolina and blah, blah, blah. He stood out there and he signed, albums, talked to people, like literally had conversation with people. It wasn't just like, hey, how you doing? Take a couple pictures and I'm out, which is what everybody does now. And so he talked to us about experiences like that and what it meant because he was like, those fans are what makes me. And so he was like, you can't ever forget. The same thing kind of happened in a situation at Applebee's where he had to send back his steak like 3 times because it was a long line of people just waiting to say stuff to him when we were at the restaurant. And somebody came up and I was like, can you just give us a minute to eat? And he was like,
Right.
You don't do that.
You know what? You don't start. I love when she does her dad. It just comes out of nowhere.
Y'all make me choke.
Don't start.
You don't do that. No, when you do that, he was like, this is the reason why we can eat this steak. We can do what we're doing. So he
Okay, you know what?
Oh, my God.
But, he was very humble in knowing that he got to where he got to, obviously because he put in all the work, but because the people loved him. And he felt an obligation to be about the people, staying with the people. And, I mean, just seeing that and being able to ride with him in South Carolina.
Yeah.
He used to take us where he grew up. Pick cotton, everything, in an Econoland, black Econoline van.
Yeah.
Y'all, what y'all know about that?
Man, that's the old school right there.
With a bucket of chicken in the back. Might have been Churches, might have been KFC.
Right.
Chicken.
If James Brown eat Churches is all right with me.
Right. I mean, he did back in the day.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, just, he was a country boy. So he taught us those values and also still calling people yes, sir, and no, sir. I know it sounds so crazy. And it sounds crazy in this day and age for us to even think about it, but it's a level of respect.
Respect, exactly.
He said, I just didn't like somebody call me James. Hey, Jimmy, boy. I ain't a boy.
Right.
I'm Mr. Brown.
Right.
And you're Mr. Smith, Mr. whatever, and we can have at least that common level of respect. And then from there, some people called him James. I mean, some of his really, really close friends.
Yeah.
But what'd he call you?
Miss Hayes.
Oh, man.
Miss Hayes, how you feel today? Yes, sir.
So,
I mean, yeah.
Miss Hayes.
Right, not Heather.
Same question. Like, what was the one thing that, your dad gave you? And maybe it was his advice. Maybe it was a situation you saw him in that taught you something that kind of impacted your life.
I think what impacted my life, which is kind of the other side of humility, is gratitude. And I think that that's what he taught me because in a lot of he was in the same situations that Mr. Brown was in. And I remember we were eating at Pizza Hut, same situation. And the lady came and literally sat on his lap.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
and
my.
rubbed his head. And
Oh,
I was
my.
like,
You're like, wait a second, lady.
and we were like,
Skank, if you don't get off my daddy.
Off my
like, oh
daddy.
my God. And we were literally like, and he was like,
And
He was
then
so-
that was personal space.
yeah.
Yeah.
He still was like super kind. She got up, she kissed him on his head.
Wow.
And he was still super kind. And I remember he was like, don't do that. And then he gave, and the poor waitress, she was not the best waitress. I remember he gave this girl a $150 tip. And my sister was like, don't. And he was like, stop it. You stop it. And it was like, be grateful.
Yeah.
And he took me on a tour around the Stax Museum. And I remember it was a huge room, and they play a reel that you actually hear them recording stuff. And it was Otis Redding. And my dad, people don't understand, my dad did horn arrangements for Otis Redding. His original instrument was the sax. And so the beginning of Try a Little Tenderness, all those horns, that's my dad playing, and he arranged that. So you heard, yes. And so it was a huge room, and there was this it was like a metal thing in the corner. And I was like, well, Daddy, what's that? And he was like, that's the heat. I was like, for this big old room? He was like, yeah. And I was like, well, where's the air? He was like, air conditioning? There was no air conditioning. Like, we were literally in here doing what we loved and making hits and making music and didn't even know they were going to be hits at that time. He was like, you had to work hard for what you wanted. And so just his example and just the story and understanding where he came from. And it's funny because now that I'm older, I was surrounded by that. Like, I was surrounded with her dad. I was around her dad all the time. I was very close to her dad. I think it was like almost like, let me watch out for her. This Ike's daughter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for a long time, he did. For the first 4 months of my job with him, he had no idea that I was my dad because it was very important for me to get that job.
Really?
I lied.
Wow.
I used my mother's maiden name.
Wow.
I didn't, and I was at some theater in D.C. and one of my sister's older friends. Matter of fact, Crystal Fox, who's on.
Yeah.
She was really close to
Heat of the Night.
So she saw me, and she was friends with one of the background singers. And he must have said, that looks like my friend's little sister. And he called me in his dressing room like, why you tell me as it was your daddy?
Wow.
You'd had a job way before now. That was
the point. Right,
But at any rate.
Cronyism.
Just seeing how grateful and how hardworking they both were. They both taught me those lessons. And for my dad, a lot of times I felt like back then they really didn't tell you where they came from. And I don't know if they were embarrassed by it. So I didn't learn some of those things until I was
humble
older.
beginnings.
Yeah.
You know,
like super humble.
right.
Like,
You're working so hard trying to
Yeah.
move up that, you know, some things get lost in the sauce a little bit.
Yeah.
But, you know.
And so I just felt like he was always just be grateful because you didn't come from where I came from. Just really, really be grateful and work hard. And so that was what he told me and what I saw just, from just being led by example.
So now you know how phenomenal these two women are. I'm sure they would love for you to tune in to Soul Sisters Dash Radio. You can check them out right there. Give it up for Dr. Yama Brown and Miss Heather Hayes.
And also, I wanted to also say just our social media. Make sure you follow us on Official Soul Sisters. We are on YouTube. We are on IG, which is Soul Sisters. We are on Facebook, and we have a website, theofficialsoulsisters.com. And so make sure you guys follow us.
Get in, man.
Thank you,
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.